Okay, welcome back, everyone. Thanks for being here, and welcome to the next session that we get to have with our very own Seed Savers Exchange, Kate Rowe. She's going to discuss our ADAPT program, so what community science at Seed Savers Exchange looks like. It's going to be great. I'm Mike Bollinger. I'm the Executive Director at Seed Savers Exchange, and I'm going to be your host for this session. Again, want to give a special thanks to Rancho Gordo for sponsoring this session. Rancho Gordo is a specialty producer of heirloom beans in Napa County, California, and they have generously contributed to this year's Seed Savers Exchange Conference and to today's event. Before we get started, I would like to share our community agreements here. So we ask all participants at the conference to be respectful, curious, patient, speak from our own experiences, be conscious of intent and impact, take care of ourselves, take space and make space, and really hope that by embracing these community agreements, we embrace a collective responsibility to create safe spaces that are respectful, inclusive, and empowering for all. So today we have Kate Rowe. Kate is the Seed Savers Exchange Evaluation Manager. Her farming career began in Chicago after earning her graduate degree from Savannah College of Art and Design in historic preservation. Eventually, Kate moved out to the East Coast where she started a restaurant farm, has managed a CSA, worked on small-scale dairies, made cheese, and eventually ran her own small farm in the Hudson Valley. In her current position, Kate is responsible for growing out and evaluating and collecting data from select varieties in the Seed Savers Exchange seed collection, coordinating trials for the Collection to Catalog initiative, and running the Community Science ADAPT program, which she'll be speaking about today. The ADAPT program involves growers from across North America in the evaluation process. Seed Savers Exchange ships seeds from the collection to participants who then track their own growth throughout the season and send valuable data back to the Seed Savers Exchange evaluation team. So through this program, we hope to learn, which varieties are adaptable to different environments and different growing conditions, which can be especially important given our changing climate and is part of the reason that she's here today as we are focusing on climate. So Kate, thank you so much for being here today and spending some time with us.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. I will remove myself and I'll get your slides up as soon as you share them.
Okay, sounds great.
All right, thanks.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kate Rowe. I'm the evaluation manager here at Seed Savers Exchange, and I'm just getting my slides up. Hopefully you can all see them, and I'll get started. So today we're going to talk about the ADAPT Community Science Program here at SSE. And this picture is from last season. That is Cindy Weldon on the left, which is the evaluation tech. And I'm on the right. We are evaluating some peppers, it looks like, last year. So what is community science? Community science, put very simply, is public participation in scientific research. Community science is a chance to get involved in science experiments, in research, and in data collection. It's open to everyone, and you don't have to have a science background to participate in it. In that larger context of community science, what is ADAPT? The ADAPT program is a super fun and exciting way to get involved in the Seed Savers Exchange mission of preserving and sharing heirloom crops. And participants in the program trial varieties from the seed bank in their own gardens and send us feedback on their performance. This information helps us better understand the adaptability of these varieties to different environments, which is increasingly more important in our changing climate, as I'm sure you all know. ADAPT and climate change. As weather events continue to grow more severe due to climate change, the resilience of our food system relies on biodiversity and seed that is well adapted to multiple conditions. Here we see a monoculture field on the left compared to a polyculture farm on the right, which you can see is producing a wide range of vegetables. If one variety or crop on the farm on the right happens to go bad one year, there are plenty of other varieties and crops that it can rely on. In the image on the left, if that type of grain fails, that's it. And it's done for the season. So biodiversity is incredibly important to sustainable food systems. Also incredibly important to food systems is finding plants that perform best across multiple environments and in a range of conditions. That is part of what we aim to do with the ADAPT program here at SSE. If we find a seed variety that does well in both hot, dry conditions and cool, wet ones, that is one we'd like to increase the quantity of in our collection, since it has adapted to multiple environments. We can also dive further into the data that we collect to see if certain varieties do best in only one of these environments, such as drought, and not others. And we can describe those as regionally adapted seeds. And just as a side note, in this presentation, I did a deeper dive into biodiversity and climate change, and I found this study and report by the National Academies that I found really interesting, and I think you might too. So hopefully Sydney can put up the link to this report in the chat if you are curious. It mainly applies to native plants and seeds, but I think it can also cross over into our food system. So how does the ADAPT program work? First, if you are interested in it at all, you just simply sign up on our website. And that is just an interest form. It is not committing you to any trials yet. It's just saying that you're interested, and it gives us a chance to get your contact information for later use. Every year, growers from all over the US and Canada are invited to sign up for this program. We get farmers, gardeners, school gardens, community gardens, and organizations every year. So we take the contact list from our website and send out a list of crops that we'll be trialing for the year. Then participants sign up for the individual trials that appeal to them. And this year we allowed folks to pick up to 4 different crop trials. Then once we close the trials to signups, our incredibly dedicated, wonderful preservation team helps Sydney and I to hand label and hand fill every seed packet. Then we set up this large pick line and packing station in one of our greenhouses here. And that you can see in the photo here. And we hand pick and hand put together everyone's order. Each seed kit contains 3 randomly selected varieties of seed for each trial, in addition to a data sheet to record your findings, a welcome letter, and greenhouse and field labels. After that, we email out growing instructions for each crop type. Then our growers plant the seeds and maintain the plants throughout the growing season. They record planting and harvest dates. During the season, they evaluate each variety for certain traits that we look for, which we'll talk about later in this presentation. Then they taste test all the varieties of the edible crops and rate each for taste. And the final step is just to give each variety a rating for overall performance. This year, we're doing 11 different crop trials. and you can see them being added to the screen here. They are colorful carrots, collard greens, cut flowers, gourds, red and purple mustard greens, yellow and orange sweet peppers, popcorn, potatoes, sorghum, tomatillos, and a pink cherry tomato trial. Looking at the numbers for this year's ADAPT program, our largest trial this year is our brand new cut flower trial. Typically, historically, all the trials have been vegetable trials, but we wanted to branch out and do a cut flower trial this year. And it turned out to be our biggest with 381 participants. And the map shows you where all of those participants are. This year, the total number of growers that we have participating is 662. The total number of trials that all those growers are doing is over 1,900. And that means that our lovely staff here hand labeled and hand packed over 5,700 packets of seeds this year. So the traits that I mentioned earlier are different based on each different crop type. For example, here are the traits that we ask our growers to study in the pink cherry tomato trial. We ask them to rate the cracking resistance of the fruit, disease resistance of the plants and the fruit, the earliness of the fruit, the flavor of the tomatoes, the vigor of the plants, and yield or amount of tomatoes compared to the other varieties that they're growing. Then we ask for an overall performance score for each variety. And the way we gather information, I don't know if anyone caught Nico's lovely presentation this morning, but he described SeedLinked, and that is the program that we use to gather our data for this program. And it's a super innovative web platform that allows our growers to enter their data in a super easy and an efficient format. And they even have a phone app that participants can use in their gardens to enter their findings and photos in real time. And in addition to being able to enter their data, they also have a feed, which works kind of like a Facebook page, so that participants can post updates, questions, and photos of their progress. And it really creates a lovely community of gardeners who are all growing the same crops. The data we collect through the SeedLinked platform are invaluable and also presented to us in a very super easy to interpret format, which we really appreciate. On the left, you can see the average ratings for each variety on a scale of 1 to 5. This is an example of our summer squash trial from last year. On the right, the pie graphs let us know if the participants would grow that variety again. And it's also where the growers can post comments and evaluation photos for each variety. Having the data organized in this manner is incredibly helpful, especially at the end of a long growing season of our own. It's simple and straightforward and very easy to read. Because the ADAPT program is open to growers in the US and Canada, we get results from lots of different growing zones, which adds so much more depth to our data that we collect. Otherwise, we would only be growing in our tiny little corner of Iowa and Winneshiek County. So we're super happy with how many participants we have from all across the US and Canada every year. So what do we do at the end of the year? After we look at the collected data from our growers, we can see which varieties perform the best across multiple regions and many environments. Over the winter, we recommend these varieties for an increased grow out to bulk up our seed quantity in the collection. As long as we have a good amount of seed, we can list the varieties on the exchange, which you see here on the left is the yearbook, and also our online exchange there in the middle. And it's our gardener to gardener seed swap that you'll learn more about in Josie's presentation, which is coming up next. Also, on the right is demonstrating that some of the best varieties that we have in the ADAPT program are also recommended for production for the catalog every year. But for that, we need a lot higher quantity of seed, so those seeds go into a multi-year increase plan. So if you have any interest in participating in this amazing community science program that we run here at SSE, you are welcome to join us. You can get involved by visiting our website at the address that you see here. And the image on the right is what you'll scroll down to. Once you see that Join ADAPT 2025 button, just click on that and it will take you right to the form to fill out. If you have any further questions about this program, you can also contact me at comscience@seedsavers.org. So if anyone has any questions, there's an image of our lovely evaluation garden this year and Sydney in the background helping with some visitors there to our farm. It's been a really great growing season so far with enough rain. So we're having a great season here at Heritage Farm, and we hope you are too.
Kate, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Love it. All right. This is such an exciting program. I'm glad we were able to take the time to kind of discuss it a little bit. I think it dovetails really nicely with the presentation that Nico gave this morning too, and kind of shows how we're using some of that technology to be able to solicit and kind of engage with folks and collect data and integrate that into the work that we're doing. Yeah. I'm curious if you could tell me, give me an example or tell me something about, what excites you about this program. I mean, you spend a lot of time and there's, almost 700 participants, right. and what that looks like. I mean, obviously there's excitement there, but, what excites you about this program? Yeah,
well, what keeps both Sydney and I excited about it every day practically is when we check the feed on the seedling page and we see everyone else's excitement about what they're growing. And they post their photos of their new blooms that have come on for the cut flower trial, or any little baby tomatoes that they have that are growing, and see their comments and their excitement all the time about this program. It really energizes us and feeds us back that right. Amazing just love for gardening and the excitement of it.
Yeah. And one of the things that I didn't hear you mention, but I think is worth noting as well, right? And is, we're thinking about the number of trials that we're doing and these things being grown in different places, but you're also growing these in the evaluation garden too, right? To be able to kind of collect your own information and see, you're using that to kind of say, is the information and things that we're getting back similar to what we're seeing here? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so every year we grow out every single variety in the ADAPT program, which this year is 90 varieties.
Yeah.
Altogether, because we're doing 11 different trials. And so we get to try out things from the collection that we've never seen alongside all of our growers every year. Yeah. And so we get to see what grows well in our environment here in Iowa, and then check the feed all the time to see what's growing well and what's not really growing well for people in other environments across the US and Canada.
Right. All right, so we've got a couple of questions here. I'm just going to drop these up on or pop these up onto the screen. First one is from John Anderson, and he said, Craig LaHoulier, who's been a longtime exchange member and involved with the organization, was a former board member too, I believe, made a presentation a couple of years ago about dwarf varieties of tomatoes. He said he's grown those with mixed results and wondering if you've evaluated any dwarf varieties of tomatoes.
Oh, that's a really funny question because we just did a a dwarf tomato trial last year.
Right.
And we found some really good, promising candidates. And so at the end of last growing season, we recommended a couple for increased grow outs.
Yep.
I was talking about, I think one was called subarctic cherry that we're going to be increasing. And also one was called pixie striped, which we didn't know, but it turned out to be a small stuffing tomato.
Right.
Which people really enjoyed growing, and it had beautiful plants and foliage on that one.
Yeah, I was just talking to Alan Kissinger, who's our greenhouse manager at Seed Savers Exchange, and we were at a Practical Farmers of Iowa gathering yesterday afternoon, and somebody was asking him about anything that kind of stood out as remarkable in the greenhouse piece, and he actually brought up the pixie striped tomato too, and just how sturdy and stocky and healthy of a plant that was, even just from seed. So
Yeah.
be excited to see that go along the way. Of course, we're getting good shout outs, right? People love Adapt, right? Thank you, Kate and Sydney, for all the work that you do with that. It's a lot of engagement, a lot of crops and varieties to grow out. But again, something that we're seeing a tremendous amount of excitement for. And I think one of the things that we kind of always seem to bump up against is just what's our capacity, right? Because there's so much interest in this, and we're really trying to kind of figure out like how much can we do, and how can we leverage the information that we're gleaning from this to be able to help support and share that knowledge.
Sure. Yeah. And a lot of that has to do with our seed quantity in the collection. So
right.
Every variety that we send out for the ADAPT program, we have to have enough seed in the collection to keep some here in our seed bank, along with mailing out thousands of seeds of that variety to different growers every year. So yeah, it's a search every year to find those varieties in the collection that have enough seed, and yeah, we're lucky that we have such a great extensive collection to look through for this program.
Yeah, and that's part of it too, right? Then is like, along with this engagement and the information that we're gathering, it's also then the need and ability to be able to grow these out and increase the seed volumes that we have so that we can continue to gain and learn. I mean, one of the things that we often talk about, right, is that these varieties are safest when they can be in people's gardens. And so, how do we get them in people's gardens and people interested in wanting to grow them? It's by the information that we have. And so, with things like the ADAPT program, where we get that information back from folks that are, growing on, in pots or in, small raised beds or, gardens of kind of all sizes in backyards. I mean, we really get kind of firsthand direct feedback that we can then share and hopefully increase the likelihood that more people will want to grow up.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So I got another question here. I'm going to pop up. This is from Fern. He said, I'm curious if you have thoughts on how permaculture-based monoculture crops fit into the goal of diversifying farms. I work for a cranberry farmer who makes value-added products with other berries, and she doesn't want to grow them on the property because she worries that they will affect cross-species pests and risk her staple crops' productivity.
Okay.
That's a big one.
Yeah, that's a lot. How I feel about monoculture, permaculture.
Right.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and I think I would need to think a little bit deeper about that. But I mean, there's no problem in growing out a single crop type as long as it's you're not growing out one variety of one crop type every year. That isn't the best idea for sustainability moving forward.
Right.
If you diversify in varieties of one crop, then you're going to have a much better outcome from that. And but it said that she's also growing out different berries on another farm or another piece of land to mix in. So it's really, that's not a typical monocrop type of situation if you're also growing other berries.
Right. Yeah, and I don't think you have to be in it. It's one of those things like you don't have to do it all, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if we're thinking about permaculture-based systems, right? Like we've talked about no-till, and we talk about the idea of being able to kind of keep roots in the ground and things
Mm-hmm.
that are capturing soil carbon. So that permaculture model, I think, is really great. Whether or
Yeah.
not a mono or a single variety within that permaculture model works. I mean, that has to be you know, based on what evidence you're seeing and whether or not you need to change varieties within that.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's it's a big question and lots of layers there, but there's some good things in it.
Yeah, definitely.
So all right, we've got just a couple of minutes left here. What are you thinking about now that is this the second year that you've run the ADAPT program from your position?
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. So are you already thinking about what next year looks like, and can you kind of open your mind up to us a little bit about what that exploration looks like for next year?
Sure. Yeah. We haven't started the process of looking for which crops. We always have ideas of what would be fun for backyard gardeners and farmers to grow out for trials. And we also kind of think about the collection first, and like if we want to focus on a crop type that has uh, better germination than others, and people are going to get better results. Like a few of the carrot varieties, for example, that we sent out this year had pretty low germination. And when that happens, we just increase the amount of seeds that people receive for that variety.
Yeah.
But when we were thinking about the collection, we have to like balance all these different variables
Right.
when we're talking about which crops to choose and then which varieties to choose for the following year. We want people to be, happy and successful in their grow outs every year, but we also want to find crops that we do have adaptability for in multiple climates. So then we want to focus on certain crop types that we would like to see increased for our
Yep.
collection, like the cut flower trial that we're doing this year. We have very low quantities of most of our flowers in the collection.
Yep.
So if we can find really great examples of cut flowers through this trial, then increase those varieties in the following years, that really helps our collection out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think one of the other things that that I like about the ADAPT program too is that when we get donations into the collection that come in, a lot of we talk about how important the stories are.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't, with some of these things that have been in the collection for a really long time, we don't always have really deep stories, right, about the histories of stewardship and some of these things. And so, the information that we're getting back on, traits and characteristics and how they're doing in different areas, really help provide some additional insight to things that we maybe don't have as deep as stories about. And again, that's all just in an effort to be able to help people to understand, well, what is this crop, and why would I grow it, and what does it look like, and how's it going to do in my garden, and all of these things that, as we get to know that and we can associate that with the things that we're growing out, again, it increases the likelihood that people are going to want to grow them, and that's the goal, right? Is
Yeah,
that
exactly.
people growing as many of these things in their gardens as we can. So,
Right.
So lastly, before we have to get off here, what's one variety that, if you can think of off the top of your head, that you're growing out for Adapt this year that you're like, wow, this is amazing?
Oh, really good question. Let's see. The Zyar breadseed poppy is an amazing, beautiful poppy. We also
Yeah,
discovered the grandma's poppy from our collection, which is like a shocking fuchsia red, really frilly poppy.
yeah.
We're really excited about our cut flower trial. If you can,
So it's not only everybody out there, but it's you and Sid too, right?
yes, we're very into the flowers this year. We
Great.
just started harvesting some of our cherry tomatoes from our Adapt trial as well. So that's super exciting to get into tomato season every year.
Yep.
Yeah, we've had some pretty great results this year.
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you so much for your time, Kate. I super appreciate your time here. Appreciate you and all the work that you and Sydney are doing in the gardens,
Oh,
helping facilitate the ADAPT program. It's all really great. I love one of the other things that we think about is kind of meeting people where they are, and I think that this meets people that are in their backyard gardens and they want to contribute to the work of the organization, and it's a really great and fun and easy and tasty way to
yeah,
be able to do that. And I think the continuation of that is actually going to come next. We're going to talk with Josie about the exchange, and I think it's a really great way to be able to kind of continue that journey within the organization and learn about how we share seeds and stories and connect in another way too.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
folks, join in. Kate, thanks again, and we will be back here in just a few minutes. Let me see if I can pull up for
Hi,
you.
everybody.
Yep, bye.